This is Weird Renegade Witches blog. Hit us up when you want some real motherfucking work done. Of course, go to the Wayward Renegade website. See the phone number there. Text me in reference to booking or scheduling energies in reference to one-on-one monthly lessons. One-on-one lessons that I also work with individuals I work very closely. Understand those are two different frequencies. One I do monthly. The other I work very closely with individuals with various issues in their life, no matter what it is, or advocate through certain frequencies, but understand that work is separate from one-on-ones, but will, if need be, if we choose, could be incorporated, but at a different frequency or different cost. However, you already know that Wayward is about that revenge, redemption, responsibility, and that motherfucking spell work. And you already know that art is occultism. Occultism is a motherfucking art. Now, I'm not going to go through the rigmarole because, of course, monthly lessons are going to start up again. Then I have my side energy, as I was talking about, doing work with individuals with abortion spirituality work, meaning going through the process, pulling that energy, tapping back into it. I know some people feel a ways about that, what it is, what it ain't is what it is. But again, that is something that's a very interesting, I'm going to say, cult-like frequency and occult-like frequency, and it is a certain type of energy and frequency in one's life. I noticed some people in my comments will say, you know, sometimes we do it for financial purposes, where that's a blood sacrifice. Anytime that you get an abortion and you say for financial purposes, that is a blood sacrifice. So let me break it down to you so you have a clear understanding, because sometimes in our head, we create a frequency and a psychology, you know, of not being real of what something is, and the purpose is no judgment. It's just what the fuck it is, right? However, then I'm also doing the one-on-ones, of course, spiritual deprogramming. And spiritual deprogramming falls under so many brackets, so many frequencies, and so many sectors of what I'm talking about. Like I said, spiritual deprogramming don't mean that, you know, you're in a cult, or cult-like energy that, oh, okay, she's deprogramming. There's so many things of what we call deprogramming. However, I just kind of want to hit something because, you know, it seemed like the last video, people were in their cyber feelings, the powers that be in people, right? And I was looking at the energies of cyber magic, cyber witching, and so on. Petition writing in comments, jealousy, envy, censorship. Let's talk just a little bit about this cyber magic. In this universal soul, they've created an energy called social media. It's not like back in the day where you could just see someone like Aretha Franklin and is lifestyles of lifestyles of the rich and famous, or Yo MTV raps, or what is it, my cribs and all of that, but interviews. Because back then, interviews, we had public relations, and you would talk to the interviewer and everything would pretty be orchestrated, and they didn't really let you in their lives, right? You had people preaching and talking and just various frequencies. When you just had regular television, when you could just turn on a TV, it was a different frequency, a different crystal. However, now that we're on social media, we have a different type of crystal ball. We have texting, that crystal ball. We have cell phones. We have iPads. We have laptops. We have all this energy, but still we're speaking in air in a crystal ball. I was reading my comments. I was irritated. I was more irritated because of the spell work and the punk ass people who use the crystal ball to talk shit and so on. people want you, social media has created emotions, then you get in your feelings instead of feeling before hitting your emotions. Because when you're in your emotions, you can actually spiral out of control and then get in your feelings. Then that's a whole different type of friction. But when I'm reading my comments, I was irritated, one, that somebody spammed a fake ass book that I never used but tried to use me for profit. What is that? You're angry because you're trying to hide the fact that I told some real motherfucking shit in my video, and I knew the codes and I knew information. So therefore, they tried to spam my comments with a fake book that I've never heard of, or whoever wrote this book, and tried to insinuate that that's where I got my information from, and then created likes. And I was looking, I said, these are white people, right? So we could say, as much as they shadow ban me, my ass is always watched. Then the lug dropping. Oh, you're all over the place. That's spell work. That is a mental. So let me explain this to you. When you have creativity and you're smart and you know how to jump to different subjects, people would either say you're ranting or you're all over the place. Okay? And so what happens, people try to do what I also call cyber reversal. So sometimes I'll kid and I say, oh, I'm going to be all over the place because I know I'm going to jump to different subjects. Well, you have to be careful when people either have ADHD or autism in their head and they can only focus on one subject. When they don't understand people and their minds, and everybody have been so suppressed that they only think one way. So when you're speaking real and speaking right, people will say you're all over the place because they want you to focus on one subject so they can write that note, so they can write the notes and absorb what you're saying. Okay? But because people have been so conditioned in this cyber world, and we have all these podcasts and energies and so on, you can only focus on one thing at a time. But then when people get on my platform, they don't understand. I talk about spiritual gossip, spiritual things, issues and so on that's connected. So for some people who don't understand how I move, I'm not for you. For people who say, dang, she sits there and talk. You don't know when I do my shit. I have clients, okay? I ain't got to do a motherfucking thing. I talk about different frequencies going on in the universal soul, okay? So a lot of times when I'm looking at this shit, I said, what are people's thoughts and why are they looking at me? Because I'm irritated that I attract people who are dumb as a motherfucker. And they don't get it. And I don't give a fuck. I'm saying it what it is. I want this shit right here to be for people who know how to think, understand. I don't care, debate, whatever, but at least have some logic. Not for you to sit there and analyze the life. Because social media and this new frequency that we have, it gives you too much personal frequency where people believe they can cyber with you. So they listen to your surroundings. They look at what's behind you. They think they're analyzing the person. They do spell work. They do group work. They do readings. They do cyber readings. They doing tarot. They doing all this shit that when you unnerve them, then they want to come back in, write a whole bunch of shit that they believe that they've analyzed about you. What's also very interesting, you got to be careful of motherfuckers who know who you are and know your past. So I could get somebody to be like, I know her. That bitch you used to be passive as fuck. I used to fuck that bitch. Did. Let me tell this hoe, so she ain't nobody. Look, bitch. I remember when you was sucking dick in the back of the car. You and I know who that is. She ain't nobody. You got to be careful with shit like that. Do you know how many stories I've heard about that? About entertainers that supposedly make it and their old school people come back in and be on some bullshit. Somebody was just telling me about that with Lauryn Hill. That the some dude was like, she ain't nobody, she's still da. You know that, but in social media, we always have to be careful of those type of frequencies. Period. When you text someone, be very, very, very cautious. Be very, very pretentious about what the hell you write, because people read your text and read into it and play games. Sometimes they'll sit on it and come back with their own work, because you understand when you're texting, it is considered a petition. That's why you have to be careful, because funny enough, with texting, things can get lost in translation. I have seen so much energies go to the left in just one text message when all somebody had to do was just call them to clarify. Understand, even though emailing is another form of cyber energy, but funny enough, it's a little better than texting, because sometimes things are unclear in texting, but people be throwing work or playing games, going around in circles. And I'm saying all of this is because when I seen that energy, and I'm like, people just be writing all this shit, and the shit is so illogical. Or you have the powers that be that watch and then try to spam your shit. And the thing about it is that I was like, when I seen that spam, I was like, I don't even know what this is. Let me delete this shit. But then I understood what I was saying was really, and it was right. So when I'm looking at a lot of the energies, there's certain codes that is so interesting. I was reading, I didn't even read all that shit. It was too much. And all I seen was something about hang up the Jubilee and get back on Earth. I cracks up at shit like that. I said, would these people ever tell me in my face though? That's where shit gets very interesting. People talk a lot of shit because they want to, it's called cyberpunking. They want to cyberpunk you because they feel, that bitch ain't nobody. That bitch talk too much. And I said, oh, so they cyber reversed my words. So they'll sit there and they'll analyze, and then they'll come back, use your own words, and then try to throw it back at you. I've noticed that a lot. Of fire and air does that a lot, but who also does it now is a group of entities called millennials. You know, and white people love doing that kind of shit. They love analyzing you. You know who else would do some shit like that? And you got to watch them, are Asian people. They bank on your whole energy. They listen to you, and then they pull your words. They hold for a minute, and then they come back with your same words. And you're sitting there kind of in confusion because they use it in a different context of energies. Okay? So I'm just saying that be careful in this universal soul, because people be out here cyber witching, and they have an issue with you. And they have an issue with you because they're watching and then they're analyzing. And it doesn't matter who you are. I'm talking to people who text each other. You like, why is this bitch texting this shit? What's up, right? So in this universal soul, understand your cell phone is a crystal ball. Okay? And or social media is a crystal ball. I intentionally do my shit on my cell phone. Not because I can't do this and do that. It's just I want a certain effect. This is my brand. This is what I do. Okay? And when people hit me up and have understanding, we have an industry. It is an industry, but the industry is tainted and fucked up. Somebody just forwarded me a video about fake Nigerian scammers and magic. In this universal soul, the world of occultism, spellwork has changed. It is not what it used to be, and it is not going to go back to what it used to be. Okay? That means that in this world, there's a different shifting that's happening. So if you're doing that old school hoodoo and whatever, you have to understand mixed company has come in and taken your shit and mixed it in with their culture. For example, I have somebody I know. She's from Mongolia. All you niggas are getting surrounded by this Indonesia and all these other Eastern cultures. But you don't understand. They need you to come to their country. They need you to be involved in their culture because they need your black ass to manifest their motherfucking work. Just like there was that gay movement of Wiccans. Wiccan gay boys, Wiccan gay white boys. And they needed that one gay nigga to sit up in their fucking coven so they can manifest. Do you understand? Ever since your black asses then sat up there and helped Eastern religions with their work, you have put money in their motherfucking pockets. You didn't even realize that when you was talking about, I'm doing yoga, I'm going to these Hindu Eastern, I'm going to Indonesia, I'm doing, you've helped them. Your black ass tapping into even Islam, which is an Eastern frequency of the Moors. You have helped put money back in their pockets. Doesn't matter if they're Somalian, Pakistani, Mali. I don't give a fuck. You have helped. That's why a lot of work that you used to do don't work anymore, because you have invested your melanin in other cultures. You up there wondering why you seeing Bangladesh motherfuckers up in Burger King throwing water in little black girls' faces because you helped their work. You want to understand why the Indian doctors are telling you off and you a nurse and you black? You help their work. You help their whole culture. That's why I keep talking about, you guys didn't peep in New York when they were sweeping down the street. We invest in their energy. Even Buddhism has shifted, but we understand the Buddha is melanated. It is a black woman. It goes back to fertility. They just give you variations. Because at least if you're going to honor a Buddha, at least get one that's closer to melanin as possible. In every damn movie I see now, you see a dang Buddha piece. That's the sponsor. That's the religion. You'll say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Shit, do you know? People just don't pull you into their religion. They pull you in their religion, dumbasses, because melanin manifests. People can't do shit without melanin. That was part of the lynch game and lynching black people. because of melanin. You're up there having that shit happen in Philadelphia with the garbage. That's a fucking altar. They setting garbage on fire. That's an altar. They putting it in parks and neighborhoods to smell up the universal soul of Philadelphia because they're bringing in something else, and that shit is going to be grimy. And they're using melanated black people to play the game with your whack ass mayor who knows exactly what the fuck is going on because she's part of the principalities. The unions cutting up, everybody cutting up, everybody talk about going on strike. I told you guys that Philadelphia is like the skinhead. But they playing games in your face because in reality, most likely they probably want to privatize it. They want something, but whatever they bringing in, that shit grimy and nasty. Unions ain't shit anyway. I used to be the secretary of Q/Teamsters. Unions are bought and paid for, and they are used to intentionally cause things to fail. They don't work for their people. They up there taking all that goddamn money from your pockets. And we over here looking at the cyber energy, but you now realizing that in reality, they're throwing spell work. The spell work we used to do is not working. If you think you're going to sit up and meditate talking about affirmations and freaking candle work, you go right ahead. Because that's a different type of energy, not going to work in this universal soul. Social media has changed spell work. That's why they're playing it out. That's why I was talking about that show. Was it Conjure whatever? Everybody on social media telling their business. Everybody on social media showing their work. Everybody on social media trying to write spell work and comments. They want to have something to say. They want to have a response. They got black people throwing spell work on each other. I was looking at this shit with Jadakiss and Jim Jones and all of that, just all of that shit. And I said, what the fuck is going on with Jim Jones? Because they show at his ass. And he's been acting real weird. I don't get along. Everybody telling off each other. Black people, do you know black people wasn't doing that shit? That shit was behind the scenes. That's spell work. Every time we see a black entertainer or famous person, as we may call it, going at each other, that is holding in the crystal, which moves out in the universal soul. So what I'm saying is that for someone to keep trying to come at me, I don't care, say what you got to say, but keep trying to come at me, that's because you think you understand my persona. That's because probably at night you have me rolling back to back and you listening to my voice. You probably want to believe that you're soul swapping, aka millennials destiny swapping. All type of shit. This bitch thinks she the shit. I can use bad her. She showed all that. Where she live? Well, too much noise. I can't get out. Cool. I can't do that. Her ass up there fat. She need to lose weight doing all that talk. Them fat bitches always talking shit. Come on now. Please. Oh, that talking. She should have lost 30,000 pounds by now. Because that's your focus. Fat bitches shouldn't be talking in the first fucking place. They talk too much. This black bitch always talking. Whack ass bitch. But I'm gonna watch her ass anyway. What's she doing? She ain't talked to us for a minute. Out here doing bitch magic. It's bitch magic. throwing spells under a crystal ball, doing readings, all of that. All of this is a gamble. Social media is nothing but cyber witching. It's such a dangerous entity. It's a dangerous entity because they gave black people social media. And black people got on social media showing their spell work, showing their condition, showing their magic. That mixed company have came in and swiped it up. I remember that's why you have so many white people believe that they could just tap into black people. They want to, and then you have this whole energy, whatever, Ifa or Santeria, Apollo, all that shit, and they come right in. Then they have created an energy where the whole Santeria, I told you, Ifa is shit because they've mixed it with Hinduism. But then it makes you look at it again. Shit, was it always Hinduism? Because when you look at some of the Hindu gods and goddesses, it's very similar. But both of them create unics. I'll get to that in a minute, right? So, then the other energy of crystallization and cyber magic and crystals is ChatGPT. I'm offended. I'm offended that you people are going on ChatGPT or whatever AI and asking psychic questions. You people are going online asking questions and saying that it was correct. You're psychotic. You are psychotic. ChatGPT is straight punking you. This thing studies your whole lifespan. What you type, what you think, it pulls energy. You ask a question, it's going to answer you. I've been hearing too many people using this energy for answers. Recently, somebody was telling me, a spiritual constituents, that one of their friends typed in something, and I'm paraphrasing, do little dick niggas, I'm just paraphrasing, do little dick niggas, no, are little dick niggas mean? It came back and said, yes. And then I started thinking, I said, did she type in Puff Daddy and 50 cents at one time or what? Was she trying to look up some information? Then the spiritual constituents is like, she think that she may have been trying to tap up some information about this person previously. Because then who in the fuck would type in, or little dick motherfuckers mean? Wouldn't you just see that? Y'all in a cyber cult. That's a cyber cult. Anyway, for y'all don't want to pay for work or for energies. That even takes away from the CIA and retreats. Y'all niggas want to go on a AI and ask the Antichrist with no spirit, no nothing. Didn't realize that you've been typing in information. It done pulled all of your information and answered a question. Talk about it must be true. No, you wanted it to be true. Because if If she typed in, "Are little dick niggas mean?" that mean that nigga little dick with that little dick was mean to you. And it said, "Yeah, I knew it." Whatever you want it to be is going to answer it the way you want it to be. And you're going to say, "Yeah, it's right." Like a fucking tarot. That's the new tarot. Wayward Renegade talking about that she does that motherfucking work. Does she? No, bitch. I knew it. Because that's what you want in your head. I'm glad I didn't pay for that, bitch. Is there such thing as abortion trauma? Yes. Oh. Is abortion trauma really spell work? No. That's what I thought. I don't need to hit up that bitch. I knew it. I don't trust a bitch that got so many wigs. I don't know who that is. Bitch might be Sybil. You see, she sit there and talk to herself. Don't even know who in the hell she talking to, according to a lady. She just sit there and talks to herself. Don't talk about different issues. Just talk to herself. At least I can enjoy myself. What the fuck can you do? Anyway. People have problems with women preaching. People have problems with real prophetess because they don't know. There's in social media, there's been all this scuttle busting shit happening. They're talking about this pastor who's from Queens, and I've brought him up before. And I guess it's Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell. And I don't know, for some reason it says 21819 Church. I guess he's in Atlanta. So in the church system, we have a new system. It's a new system where we have these new male-built, tight-bodied pastors. Okay? So they've changed the frequency of the energy. And what they're doing is guerrilla preaching. They're doing a form of what I call guerrilla preaching. They're taking old school preaching, merging it together with a guerrilla feel. So therefore, they have taken away the old preaching and they're giving us new soft preaching where you're getting, of course, gay couples and all of this energy. They have brought in kind of the philosophies of the Episcopal Church and all of this frequencies, but it's not real church because they're pulling from a certain place. Okay? However, they have these new forms of people who preach kind of in a riddler, right? And everything it makes it sound like and this and that, they sound like a podcast, but it's like a riddler, and it has a flow and movement to it, but it's not preaching. And it's a tone, and all of the tone, and what they'll do is they'll go low to go high, but it's not really high. They're pushing outward and they're pulling from their gut into the chest, and then it makes it appear as if they are guerrilla preaching. And then part of the guerrilla preaching is to call you out. sister over there, she was a hoe. And da-da-da-da. You over there being a hoe. Da-da-da-da-da. And you walking around this universe and you're a hoe. And this and that. You need to repent. Repent. Right? So then it makes it sound and y'all falling out like bitch asses. Oh my God, they saving me. Oh my God. Oh my God. And it's all fake because those are different type of demons. And so with him, it's been on social media. I guess he done sat up and went into the Old Testament and telling motherfuckers, if you not ride or dying for this God or believe in this God, then he is going to commence to tell the devil to come get your black ass and go with the devil. I said, did these niggas just peep that he just summoned the fucking devil in front of their face? He literally just summoned the devil in front of their goddamn face. They didn't see that he just turned into the devil. So when he was preaching, doing, when you see especially men in that world, men summon and they their chest and they pull and they pull, then the voice come out. That's how they summon. They command. Right? So when I was looking at that, I said, that nigga just sat up there and summoned the fucking devil, and these niggas believe in this shit. The whole Old Testament is a whole energy of punishment, but you got to know how to work it. Men and women work it differently. But when you are the Antichrist, woman or man, Antichrist, you're going to sound like him. And so I said, people are scared of him or something. I'm trying to understand. I don't give a fuck what he said. I give a fuck that man right there just summoned a fucking demon right in front of you and turned into it and transformed and conformed into it. He just sat up there, brought the devil in the house, in a warehouse, because he wouldn't be able to do that in the tabernacle. A warehouse, office setting, whatever it is. That's why they changed the scope of location of churches and what is in the church. See, you can't be doing all that because the entities and the idols that are in there is not going to let you sit up and try to literally summon the devil in front of people and then tell them the devil is going to get them. Because he's giving you the appearance of Lucifer, but summoning the entity. The words that he used, that's what he just did in front. He used the Old Testament to play you. He chanted it. This preacher, Pastor Philip Anthony, chanted the devil to come in the house and for the devil to attack you. See, he doesn't have the authority. That means he asked for the authority and his legions is already with the devil. And the devil wants souls. See, that's the way he's playing you. He throws up the signs all the time. I told you about him. And he know it. But when you don't have discernment, you don't see it. These are the new pastors. The new pastors are summoning. The other pastors were under Lucifer. These pastors are they're not even satanic. They're under the devil. That's why he acknowledged it. These people are under God, the devil that walks the earth. Why don't you think somebody in my comments telling me that I need to get back on earth and stop fucking with the Jubilee? Why? Because I'm telling the truth about the Jubilee? That I'm telling people, don't be spending your money with these people? Are you going to lose money underneath the Jubilee? Okay. Y'all gonna get caught up, huh? Keep fucking around, you'll find out. Other spell work. Black women, you just been played in plastic surgery. You guys is set up and got all that goddamn jigaboo plastic surgery. Y'all looking horrible. The white girls getting damn good plastic surgery. Very light, very good energy. They didn't set up and played you. They didn't made y'all change your body. They didn't made y'all change your features. And now they coming out looking better than you. That's a cold game and a cold piece of spell work. Y'all better peep the type of work that they doing. While you guys up here looking like fucking the Pied Piper and Peter Pan and shit. And Pinocchio, they getting good work done. Anne Hathaway and then Emma Stone and more. You guys out here trying to look like Joan Rivers, thinking that look like that's wealth. Or do it as they call it, the Mar-a-Lago face. Where y'all get that from? What is that in that contract? What's the sponsorship? And what type of intoxication potions they have Kiki Palmer under? They got her just common. She did not walk in this industry as being common. But they made her common, and she's ending up in places. You know, she's acting like a dope fiend. And I'm not going to even say allegedly. She acting like a straight dope fiend. She's acting like a trans hoe. She's acting like a transvestite. I gotta go to San Francisco. She reminds me of, is it Shotwell? Them Shotwell hoes. You know what I'm talking about off of Mission? Is it Shotwell? Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. She Polk Street. If I didn't know any better. Tenderloin. Shit. Is she on, hell, Southern California? Was it Figueroa? That she has that feel. You seen the sacrifice. They have it with Big Boy Uncle. He got sacrificed, huh? Road rage. Crashing somebody's house, and they got them paid actors, the white man and shit, to be talking. I was having a discussion with someone. We were talking about Jennifer Hudson. And we were talking about Jennifer Hudson, and we went back in time of when her, what was that? Her brother, her nephew, and her mother were sacrificed and stabbed. And they blamed it on the sister's boyfriend who didn't do it. And we know he didn't do it, but he got caught up in the game. And, you know, they was just kind of, you know, we was talking about the backstory. And I'm like, and they were asking me, did I think she knew what happened? I said, that's a cold game, and that's a cold piece of spell work. And that's just something you just don't want to touch. Because that was some, that's on the same lines of that Nicole Brown shit or whatever. I was talking to a spiritual constituents, and we were talking about yoga. And I said, I don't understand why Black people are so attached to yoga. And I had another spiritual constituents, they hit me, and I was like, dang, I heard about this. And they intentionally are not recognizing that she was the creator of Pilates. And Kathy Stanford Grant When you read about her, they're saying that she was under this, what is it, that Joseph Pilates. But we already know the what's up. We already know the what's up. They just don't want to give money to her family. They don't want to give acknowledgement to the frequencies of Pilates, that it was really created and understood by a black woman. White people would take shit and put it in their name. They do it all the time. And then when you try to find the background and history of it, you can. And I said, I don't understand why black people are not doing Pilates. I think it's better for the body than yoga. We don't even know where that came from. With so many dynamics mixed into it, you know. So it's just what it is, what it ain't, right? You know, just some energies. Then I was like studying Los Angeles versus the Bay Area. I've been looking at like different gangster stuff, right? And they were talking about Oakland and and the different drug empires. And then I kind of extended it out. I said, no, the Bay Area period, but I would think, and I could be wrong, you could correct me, but I said, I would think Oakland, San Francisco, and Richmond. And I remember just kind of growing up, it was weird, but you kind of always had Oakland had an issue with San Francisco. They'd be like, I'm not going past that bridge. Richmond would say the same thing, but then you cousins and shit live in fucking Oakland and Richmond and shit. And then your wild card was fucking Palo Alto with their shenanigans. And then you would hear about this city called Pittsburgh, and them niggas was off the hinges, the home of the home invaders and home invasion. And then you would hear a little bit about San Jose, but it was mostly about the Mexicans. But I was doing a compare and contrast because in the Bay Area, you didn't hear about no Bloods and no Crips. It was just niggas doing shit, right? Even neighborhood stuff. And then I said, dang, that's a different type of work. I wanted to understand the work because everything is work, okay? Even with the energies with Hugh Newton and the Black Panther Party, that's all work. And then I was studying the energies of Southern California, of the, you know, the Crips and the Bloods. And I said, what is that? That was more CIA. That wasn't like the Bay Area on some like real shit. Not to be rude, but I'm just looking at it. Because they used the Bloods and the Crips for different type of energies. And I knew it was something weird, especially back in 2002 when I seen all these people talk. It was Times Square. It was one side Crip, the other side Bloods. I said, what the fuck is going on? And I had to go back to, I was listening to that special ed, and he was on that Drink Champs, and he was talking about NWA, what they ushered in. And at first I was ignoring him, and I said, no, I think he's on to something. So that's what made me kind of investigate, look at the differences. I said, before, this wasn't the movement. And then the only thing I would hear is that they had Crips in Sacramento and Stockton. And I was like, that's very interesting. And for some reason, growing up, I was always connecting a sister city, Sacramento and Stockton, to Los Angeles. And then it moved, then I understand that it moved into Seattle, then into like Houston and shit. But just to say all of that, the Bay Area was very much like Philadelphia, you know, in that world. But I'm very interested, like in Southern California, they was doing work and mustering up and summoning stuff. And it was very interesting, Crip work and shit like that, what the works that they use. In San Francisco was very interesting, but somehow the black people got involved in some other shit. And some of them would say that they're now Northaniels. Some of them would say that they're Serenials. I said, that's none of our business. Like, it's weird. So I'm very interested, as I'm really looking, what in the work type of work? So I'm going to do some more investigation. I'm still researching. I'm just talking about it because I'm doing a compare and contrast of, you know, in that world, especially in the 80s, was it Christianity? Was it summoning. What was the work? Okay, still studying and stuff like that. It makes you wonder if, especially with some of the energies, if they were dope people, were they feeding the devil? You know, stuff like that. It's just very interesting. Have y'all been seeing Riza Islam? Have y'all been seeing that energy that popped up and he was looking like the Four Tops, but looking very awkward? Then we were like, is this him? He had on a white turtleneck, and it looked like with some white Stacey Adams. I'm just going to say Stacey Adams. Then he had on kind of a mercury blue suit. And then I was like, how tall is that Riza Islam? Because Shaka Khan, I forgot Shaka Khan was in, not a video, but it was, I guess it was a reel. And she was meeting him. I don't know if he was selling something or something. And he was looking at her very awkward, very awkward. And we were all like, is this him? Then they were like, dang, he gained weight. And I was like, damn, I didn't know he was that tall. And then I was like, what's wrong with him? Then my other client was like, I didn't know he was gay. I said, oh, shit, wait a minute, what? I thought, wait, hey. And so then I had to go back, look at the reel, and I'm like, if y'all could find it, find it. Then I was like, is this him? What's going on? And then she was just like, he just looking different. Then he would seem very nervous and very odd. I said, maybe they got him. Right? Unics. Right? And I was talking about Eastern religions. The Eastern religions create the unics, right? So in the universal soul, I'm looking at variations of the Old Testament and how one can look at Adam and Eve. And in my talks to you guys, I've gave you so many different perspectives. There's not just one, because we're in a time, right? And a couple of videos ago, I was talking about Lilith. And some people believe it's Jews, some people the Jewish energy, some people believe that's Adam's first wife. They believe, and I used to be into all of that. But I'm very suspicious when I'm seeing men, especially black men, interested in Lilith, right? Under the Jubilee, there's an energy. Under the Jubilee, it shows you that there's another frequency. I've talked about it, and it's been brought up before, how the rib created the unics and transsexuals. A man cannot take a rib bone and create a woman. But a man could take a rib bone and create another man, though. When I talked about the 90s, and I talked about Janet Jackson when she allegedly lost all that weight of her album That's the Way Love Goes, that could have been a man all along. And I was telling a person, I said, you know what? I've been to a concert, I've seen Janet Jackson. That body is not the same body, right? So the alleged, so they was putting us under ritual then, ritual and oath, of how they was in our face, they was playing in our faces. So I went back, I said, men are interested, black men are interested in Lilith. So let's flip the perspective of Lilith. How about Lilith never had children by no Adam? Lilith was created by the rib bone and became a eunuch. And Lilith is really Lucifer. Lilith was the first Eve. And God said, that's not natural. I mean, I know I'm unnatural, but that's not natural. And this motherfucker think he's better than me. Put that nigga there back in hell. And this God realized it needs to produce. The weird thing is you guys are not looking closely. There are two different Eves. There's the Lilith, Eve. Then there's Eve, that's the woman. The Eve that's the woman didn't come as a positive mate for Adam. The Eve, the woman, came as an incubator. This God, in so many words, said Eve is evil. And anything that funnels out of her is sin. They in reading the energies of this time, they're showing you women ain't shit. And they recreated it that way. Eve was never, the biological woman Eve was never created. She was held hostage. She was slaved. Then they pulled her ass out and said, we'll name her Eve. They're playing games with you. It's above your pay grade. I didn't read all that. It's not my fault. Cain and Abel, they came in through sin. But they failed to tell you that there were daughters. They failed to tell you that Eve had 13 children. They failed to tell you not only did Cain kill Abel, but Cain married his sister. Then they had the audacity to have Seth, and then Seth married his sister. Then they up there having children, and they married each other's siblings. You have that Somalian chick that's part of that, was it the AOC, who married her brother. You have these Muslims and shit marrying their first cousins that's like their siblings. Somalians, Sudanese, all of them be marrying their cousins and shit. They have a whole dynamic, all of them. I was telling somebody, I said, that makes a lot of sense how the Ethiopians don't lose their features. That's why we have cults and men having sex with their daughters, and men and women having sex with their sons, and it's crazy. That's why we have those cults, because according to what we're reading, is that stable, that's cool in the game, it's all okay. But they're not telling you there's genetic issues that goes on with that. Then you wonder why we are psychotic. In Sodom and Gomorrah, what happened to Lot and his daughters? The daughters had sex with their father to reproduce. And eunuchs are connected to Lilith, because Lilith was a eunuch. It's above your pay grade. That's why you have black men pulling on Lilith, the power. The spiritual constituents had me look at the interview, and I didn't want to look at it, between T.S. Madison and this Angelica Ross. And Angelica Ross is a eunuch. As they say, a warlock eunuch. They use Eastern philosophies to chant to build up his society. He used the Bible against women and men. In his wording in the interview, he's slick. It was a whole bunch of fire and air. They're talking about non-binary and all that dumb shit. These people talking slick in this interview, or them talking to each other, and clearly they're up there talking about they are hating on white eunuchs, white trans people. No, you are the slave master's bed wench, bitch, because you guys sit up and cut your dicks and do all that interesting shit because you want to be white. We don't talk about that cyber magic. We don't talk about that spell work. We don't sit there and analyze that. You're analyzing me because you're a hater, but you're now looking at the real shit. This is what the white people are angry that I'm talking about here. Or whosoever mixed company and ushering in these Eastern cultures and using melanated people to help. Do you know how scary, when I was listening to that interview, you guys could listen to it, how much they kept talking about white people, white privilege, white trans privilege? It's like it is the Willie Lynch effect. They're not telling you, they only telling you that the Willie Lynch is a manifesto. But they're not telling you that the Willie Lynch concept is coming from plantations, is coming from concentration camps, is coming from ushering from down from Europe to Asia, into the Caribbean islands, into Africa, into the Americas. How they would just have plantations of the Willie Lynch effect. They don't want to tell you about the real Benjamin Franklin. They don't want to tell you about the real Thomas Jefferson. But meanwhile, you have the Oval Office have the bust of Benjamin Franklin. That motherfucker was up there stealing inventions but making Frankensteins. You have DeSantis in Florida then sat up and unleashed Thomas Jefferson. I said, oh goodness. Sexual assault and pedophilia. They think they white supreme. But the Willie Lynch effect was a Frankenstein effect. They were castrating, switching sexual identities, all of that. incest, creating mutants. They know it. That's why they told you their spell work. Because they were already, they had already tested it. The Willie Lynch plantations. You have white women, white studs, that's intentionally targeting black gay men or black men. I heard about it, so I decided to pretend to be a white woman. Like they pretend, how they get in our comments pretending to be black men and starting ruckus. Bitch, I pretended to be a white stud. You damn right. Do you want to know the shit they be talking about with black men, them white studs? They want to peg the fuck out your ass. They hate you. But then they say they want to be you. So it's a movement to catcall you. They really want they really want the supposed straight ones. Do you understand that's a whole Aryan cult? White studs are that's an Aryan cult. And they want to peg the fuck out you black men. They're starting off, they've always done it. They start off with the gay man, and then they graduate up. That's why I told you the original pegging started in San Francisco with hardcore studs who were pegging white men. A whole movement. Where they're back at it again. And they intentionally absorb their demon asses and act like that they talk like you, this and that. They really want what you guys call them trades. They really want them. The white studs are vicious. But they're going to end up changing them into unics. You'll see. Anyway, so we have these energies here with that Angelique. And he was saying some interesting stuff. He went from the transvestites are cosplaying, which they're all are cosplaying. Doesn't matter if you have the slit or not. They used the word, she or he used the word, read, and they kept going to the Bible, unequally yoked. The Angelica person said that he wanted biological straight men, but he understood that he would be considered it would be considered blasphemy. So he believed he became a woman by cutting his penis off. And therefore, he's equally yoked. You're still a man. You came from a man's rib bone. You don't have a womb, you have a wound. Then these people who cut them penises off, some of them now consider themselves as lesbians. I didn't know what the fuck I said. Meanwhile, you're at T.S. Madison saying T.S. Madison is confused. But then T.S. Madison seemed like he didn't understand. He didn't got his ass in trouble. He got all that shit, did all of that clowning. Now you going to have to be under a ritual. You would have did better just leave it alone, just being on a chitlin circuit. I said, damn. And Angelica was trying to encourage and insinuate, because I understand that T.S. Madison's a gatekeeper, but that Angelica is a handler and a groomer, a Hollywood one. So to be part of that energies and to keep, it seemed like to keep up the frequencies, and this Angelica is telling T.S. Madison in a subtle way, indirect, you got to cut that dick off. You are too attached to that dick to be part of this. And it's very interesting, but I didn't understand the psychosis of them truly believing that if they cut off their penis, that they're a woman. No, you're still a man with a womb. But maybe that's why they're kidnapping women and stealing their feminine frequencies to create these eunuchs. They're eunuchs. And I was telling someone, I said, damn, in the Bible, the preachers didn't know the outright how to tell us that these people are eunuchs. Okay? And what I'm saying is all through the Bible, especially Esther and other parts of the Old Testament and New Testament, they're talking about this. Okay? The interesting energy is the pastors. That's why they was telling us don't do yoga, don't get into Eastern cultures, and don't believe anything that is overly extreme conscious. Then they brought up Egypt. They said don't believe nothing in Egypt. You know, it was just don't fuck around with that. But looking back at old school Egypt, they were eunuchs. But it's sad that in the Bible, that the preachers, we're sitting up there in church and they didn't want to tell the truth that this is what's coming. Especially if you get out of the teachings and you don't have any discernment, you're not going to see it coming. During the pandemic, they shut it all down, including churches. We stopped reading and understanding the frequency because they built these new guerrilla preachers. And the guerrilla preachers are not teaching the different frequencies of old school energies because they're too afraid to do it, right? And they created this transphobia shit. Fuck it. No, let's look at it. These people are eunuchs. And the black ones are full of blasphemy. But they can do that under the Jubilee and be forgiven. That Angelica is encouraging T.S. Madison to cut off his penis and basically saying, T.S. Madison, you don't have any sense and you're not really us. You are still a man. You're just cosplaying and you're just non-binary and you're not the real deal. I was very much uncomfortable listening to their interview with each other because they sound like old school grandmamas up in the damn kitchen, or they sound like females as we be talking to our girlfriends. And some people can misunderstand that as gay, like that's gay boy. No, that's them emulating, still cosplaying the biological grandmother, the mother, the aunties, women, girls. They even brought up neighborhood, talk about, yeah, when I go out, I couldn't do this and do that, so I had to put on some earrings. I said, bullshit, ain't nobody in the hood tripping off you. Matter of fact, them niggas are probably on the under trying to fuck you or ask you to go boost. Okay? Don't put that white shit on black people. See, that's the whole fucking thing. They keep trying to talk about that black people did this and black people bullshit. So the fuck what? The bottom line is that don't put that white shit on us. But when you really listen to this interview, you can hear the envy and jealousy all up in this conversation over white people. And it was really bad. And the thing about it is it was a word that they used. Let me see if I can find. white trans theory. So they was tripping off of this white trans theory. I said, damn, the CIA did a damn good job. Okay? So we have to understand a lot of the Eastern culture has formulated these new brands of unics, especially among Black people, and the frequencies, right? You know? So the next energy is for Black men, especially in the trans community, to cut your dicks off and castrate yourselves. That's going to be the ultimate sacrifice to their God. Right? Because I was too confused listening to it. He kept calling this Angelique sister and all that stuff, and I said, this is a problem. That's why there's a problem with understanding the difference, you know, between a pussy and pussy. They compared the two. You have this African woman. Now they're getting African women who are married to white men to be involved in shit. I think I was looking at this woman. She was trying to, it was this African woman, she was trying to make it make sense. I was like, what the hell is she talking about? Let me see if I can find her. I was looking at that Kat Von. She is, what is that? She's under what I call that neo-orthodox religion, where she's praising Black men. The neo-orthodox. Yeah. So I don't know if this woman is African. I don't know what she is, but her name is Stephanie Benson. And you could look her up on Instagram, and she's cute, but she's older, but she's married to a white man, and she's up there encouraging women, but I think Black women, to have anal sex, and talking about sometimes you got to spice up the bedroom with some feces and shit. So she's saying that spice up and let him, you know, hit that back door and make sure he oils it up real good and stuff like that, but not all the time. But, you know, give him a little flavor of some good feces from time to time. You know, people like that, they're encouraged. This is what's happening, right? In addition to, there were some energies rolling around on the internet with that white chick, Bonnie Blue. And that Bonnie Blue, they're up there talking about that she keep doing it to all these men, and then allegedly they're trying to say that she did it to 2,000 men or whatever, and the demon then came and got her, and I guess the demon almost killed her, as they said she was so fatigued, but she started seeing all these demons. I think Bonnie Blue is a whole dude, unless this is a straight hack, because in reality, women don't get down like that, especially with our body parts. You can only do so much, and 2,000, hundreds, 200s, and all of that stuff, that sound like a man. That sound like a eunuch. Okay? And then here and now they having these Posidian dicks. A Posidian dick is a man whose dick, as they say, smell like fish, but really smell like dang seaweed. I said, that's very interesting. And it's not coming from a woman, it's coming from him having anal sex. Then you know, these men, they be getting this gonorrhea and syphilis, and they be having this new strand that's really strong of gonorrhea and syphilis that got them using fucking panty liners in their goddamn underwear, shit, might even sanitary napkins, because their asses be leaking. So I said, Lord, that's on the same lines of that feces being loose and they got to use a tampon. You know, or some of them be real cute, try to use tampons to keep in semen. You know, they're out here talking about a lot of these apps, and especially Sniffles is by the CIA, and they're monitoring it. Probably doing a social experiment. Some of you feel the ways about what I was talking about with that Beyonce tour. Basically, bitch, you don't know what you talk about because we were there. Let me tell you something right here, right now. I don't think y'all know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't even know what the fuck you were looking at. You didn't even know the connections. They're up here using chain harnesses and all of this stuff and giving you innuendos, and you're angry because I said death ritual. Well, it's true. Then there's talk about that even though she did that 2 days in Houston, there was an energy of her also performing in Dallas, I think in a private frequency. Now the funny thing is when it comes up to engineering and stuff like that, especially engineering, dealing with sound and the stage designing and all of that and production, it's like nobody can tell me shit about that because I know what they can do, and I know how they can mask shit, and I know how shit can look. They were spreading rumors saying that it was immigrants that basically did the stage design and the setting and everything and engineering. And I said, I'm like, they're not supposed to hire any immigrants or people who are not certified or are in the union. That can cause a big issue, right? And a lot of you people, because you were there, like, no, that's not what happened. But obviously I was right about the death ritual, okay? And Diddy and the transporting, because it taps back into what happened, I believe, in Central Texas. So they have these energies going, and they have you people under the red dragon, the dragon that, of course, that was about to take the child, and then they had to go sit with God. Then you have the whole, what's it called, the Mulak Bell bull energy, because they want to be symbolic, and I probably pronounced it wrong, Mulach, whatever. And there's an energy going on, right? So basically on the 4th of July, under the Jubilee, the 4th of July, allegedly, and then through the 5th, they had the sacrifice happen over there in Texas. And they had a Guadalupe River that disrupted and ruptured. I don't know what happened. I was confused about everything. So Guadalupe, we can understand what Guadalupe, Virgin Mary, Marian, and so on. We send Santa, patrons of death, holy death, was it San Marta, whatever you want to call it, right? However, we understand that the Guadalupe River pushes all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. So literally, you could be washed away into the Gulf of Mexico. And I asked, is that part of the Nile River? And they were, and so we were looking, and apparently there's a belief the Nile River is going through Mississippi. So this is a very interesting frequency. So we had this sacrifice happen in Central Texas, where all the white folks, and they're giving us all these pictures and so on, that's going on. And I'm like, what the hell is happening here? The main thing that I was more tripping on are the number systems. And it's very interesting. They kept saying that 23 girls were missing from Camp Mystic. And I said, again, switch that again, 32 degrees. Oh, switch it again. Here we go with the 5. Oh, 3 counts not guilty, 2 counts guilty, transporting. And then all the numbers in the calculations ended up running back to Beyonce, in addition to Puff Daddy and to some other energies. But I'm just being a little layman, because I have to be layman. However, they're using the likes of Elon Musk to buy properties. We understand that there's monies being funneled in from different entities hiding under names. So you guys just think Elon Musk, but Elon Musk is on the same lines as Bill Gates. They just use the likes of these people, but it's not really their property. And they were talking about, there's been rumored that Elon Musk has acquired plenty properties. But again, that is money funneled in, which is factual, from different entities, coming from different countries to buy up properties in America. So they then set up and washed out another town and so on to, I guess, to build whatever they're going to do or create a new community. Now, what's weird is that I thought this flood was actually going to happen in Louisiana. It threw me off Texas in this little town. Very much happened in the Carolinas, because the same thing where they were blocking, they was going to open, I think, a plant in a white area of New Orleans or something like that. I don't know the extent, but it was blocking the levees or something that where people can't get out. And it was in a white area, and the same thing was concerned, like what are they about to do in New Orleans or Louisiana, to say. Didn't expect this one. Okay, this was very interesting. What's very, very, very eerie is the fact that Trump basically said in so many words, there's no such thing as an Epstein list. Me personally, I'm like, I don't know if Epstein exists. I know his girlfriend existed, because that was a whole modeling scam of prostitution and more, and connected to so many people. I said, how did Trump just say that there's no Epstein list? Listen, all of these niggas keep track of names. That's how, what is it, Charlie Sheen got caught. That's how all the Hollywood people got caught. Remember the Hollywood madam? She had a list. They all have lists. There was a list. There's video, there's a list, there's a whole bunch. So however, he didn't got rid of all of that evidence. Diddy probably going to get time served. If he does time, okay, but hey. But where I'm going with this is with the little girls. See, little girls are sacrifices, especially little girls. I said an all-girl camp. What's very eerie is how they're explaining their deaths. What's also very eerie is the cabins. The cabins didn't look like water damage, like in present tense. It looked weathered, old. What the fuck happened? CNN was on scene and the woman was lying, talking about she went to that camp when she was little. Did y'all look at the cabins? Did y'all the river, the land, then the cabins? How did all them girls, how are missing? What the fuck? They up there talking about the water was 26 feet. Then how did it recede that fucking quick? Where did it go? What the hell? You know, because I'm talking to myself. What the hell? Bunk beds. What? Then you got some people like, Did y'all look at them pictures of them white folks? Oh, them white folks. But did y'all look at them pictures? Did they seem a little interesting? Just wiped out a whole town. Everything is recorded. What is weird, they said it happened while people were asleep at night. I mean, in the morning, like weird. Then I'm like, but then how come some of the footage is of people who are fully dressed, and then you see water crashing in? When did this happen? What happened? So on the 4th and the 5th, this horrific flood. By the 6th, you're on the mystic Camp Mystic. There's no garbage or car rubbish. It's just clean. Death ritual, huh? But then you said I was crazy in so many words when I talked about how Beyonce was hanging. But we have helicopters with the same frequency hanging the same way, tipped over. People holding on to, what's it called, helicopter chains and harnesses and so on, lifting them out of water. And I said, by air. That's above y'all pay grade. Ooh, art imitates life, life imitates art. Y'all talk about the Simpsons, bitch, you better start looking at these entertainers and the type of shit that they doing and where they're trying to fuck with civilians. They playing in your face. Right? They saying, so that makes a lot of sense to why they went and got rid of the weather warning. They're talking about that the DOJ cut funding. I seen the reports where they talking about they're not going to report any more hurricane and weathered. Or no, they cut it off from the civilians, the people. Are y'all telling me this is not a fucking lawsuit? Are you telling me this shit sounds right? If there's a warning, how do you cut off information? These motherfuckers are cutting off information to the people. You don't think that's a death energy? The worst thing you can do is cut off information so people don't get a warning. Again, that's the same thing that happened in the Carolinas. But it's always happening in these backwoods. They're out here distracting you with Mexico and the shit going on in Mexico. With them rising up against all them white folks coming there. And y'all too busy trying to say, well, that's contradicting because they came over here. Well, it's more than white people. It's also Chinese and Asians going over there, taking over Mexico, bringing in their food. And the Mexicans, to be honest with you, been fighting for some years now, ever since the pandemic, to get them the fuck out. You want to go to Mexico for vacation? How is another America? You got Indians over there. You got the Chinese over there. You got a whole bunch of white folks over there. But you got distracted. And you didn't peep. Anytime that they want to get rid of something, understand they are about to do some shit. To be honest with you, this is a federal lawsuit. They are intentionally keeping information away from the American people that something may harm us and so on, and they're not trying to tell us, and they're hiding it. They're hiding the outside world. They're hiding everything. Literally, we have to reach outward to get a consciousness of the rest of the world, because for some reason America is hiding the world. They're hiding information, and it's detrimental. Essence Festival. I have a feeling that the Essence Festival is, I don't know, half and half propaganda. Maybe the Essence Festival will be better if you remove the African woman and the African energies and the white people when they went and sold out to the white people off of Essence. Maybe it'll be better, if they'll let the local people be part of the Essence. They outsourced people for them to come in as for distribution and more. Vendors are not from there. They didn't want local businesses to be part of it. So yes, it's going to fail. They have certain energies going on, which is spell work. They want it to fail. They don't want this to have anything to do, I bet, with American blacks. This is an American black issue. Anything dealing with American blacks, they want to kill it. The issue is that the American blacks, they're killing off. They don't want you in shit. And then they have these new extremist blacks, which are coming from third world countries, that want to basically ice you out. That's why they have the energies with the Haitians. And they're using the Haitians against the American people. That's a cold game, and that's a cold piece of spell work. I said, oh, while American blacks like, yeah, right on, Haitians, right on. Y'all better look again. Y'all better see what's going on. I have no issues with Haitians, but Haitians be having issues with me. But I'm going to keep it real. I'm a little suspicious, because these are not the indigenous Haitians. These are the hybrid Haitians that have been recreated. And it's not the fact that they're fighting them. It's the fact that they're letting them fight. And there's Indian energy behind it that's supporting it. Didn't we just understand in Chicago, when the people in Chicago was upset, saying that they were infiltrating the black neighborhoods with Haitians, and they didn't want them there because they was fucking up the neighborhood? Did we forget about when Chicago was talking about that? I didn't. That they didn't know where the hell these people came from, but all they know that they mixed them in the black communities, and they're rude and disrespectful, the Haitians, because they're hybrids. And talk about, well, it was a Haitian that founded Chicago. No. That was an indigenous. They're not telling you. I understand the picture they show you, but because you guys, because I think some of y'all get confused about that French language. You understand that Paris is a whole hack. Paris is nothing but the World's Fair. It's a hack. French and Latin always came from melanin. Anyway, I didn't went to the left. You know, I'm all over the place. The crowd is dead. I don't know what's wrong with people. The crowd is dead. The crowd was dead. But I was peeping to some of the spell work. Lauryn Hill was there. What I understood with Babyface and Maxwell, it was some electrical or something issues that caused the pushback. The main thing is to look at the work. Okay? They had Lauryn Hill summoning. They said that her set ended at 3:30 a.m. in the morning, the highest point. I said, what kind of summoning was that Gemini doing? They said to an empty. I said, so you could have went to bed and came back and they said the same thing. And they were asking me, what is the energies with 2 Geminis and an Aries? I said, oh. That's your strong point. That's your high point. Aries and a Gemini doing work, fire and air work, and summoning. Ooh. I had to break it down. I had no clue that Teddy Riley and Dougie Fresh had been friends since high school. I said, damn, all these niggas know each other. I was listening to Shantae Moore. They don't like Shantae Moore. She from the Bay Area. She from San Francisco. She could sing her ass off, but people don't like her. But when Deborah Cox came out, they were on Deborah Cox. The spiritual constituents said, yeah, because the gay men like Deborah Cox. I was like, what? He was like, ooh, that should be a versus. Deborah Cox against Shantae Moore. I said, But I was listening to Shantae Moore. I said, no, she got it all together, but maybe they just don't like her personality type. I was looking at the crowd. They were just dead, and they were just like. But when Deborah Cox came on, ooh, I said, bitch. Then they had all these random people. And it was doing something the anniversary of Waiting to Exhale. And the guy was like, the Queen Whitney Houston. I said, Whitney Houston wasn't the only one in Waiting to Exhale. Shit, Whitney Houston was a hack. I seen her on Give Me a Break. I said, I don't remember seeing her on Give Me a Break. But where I got confused is, who's that Whitney and who's this Whitney? Because that Whitney had an accent. Matter of fact, she sounded almost Latina. Like, I said, what the fuck? That wouldn't be far-fetched. Go look up the reel of Give Me a Break with Whitney Houston on it. Spiritual constituent was like, are you sure that even aired? I said, I used to look at some Give Me a Break. I don't remember this episode. It was hard. Whitney was doing some horrible acting, but that Whitney is not the same Whitney. I said, and then what doesn't make sense, this was around the time her album came out. We don't know what's going on in this universe, right? Anyway. in Chicago, I think this is Chicago, mass shooting outside River North Club leaves 4 dead, 14 injured following rapper, is it Mello? Album release. Can't see the whole thing, but Mellow Bucks. So who did they hire to do that shooting? Because you know in Chicago they got that real bad hiring people to do shootings and say that the neighborhood did it. You think it was the police allegedly? You think it was some hired immigrants? You think it was some Haitians? Who did they get to shoot up that party? And you know Carnival is about tired of you niggas that they have a whole list and they don't want your ass dancing and wobbling. They don't want no fans. They are tired of you black people on Carnival. And I said, when did black people start doing all this? But then they need your money. That's a cold game and a cold piece of spell work. But they getting about tired of y'all. You know white people like all that. That's why they asked us what's going on. Them white people wanted to go on a Carnival cruise. Because the black people were there. It was too much live. But it might be because you got third world people working on the boats. And I've been seeing a lot of Mexicans and Indians working on Carnival and the rest of these boats. So no telling what that is. Anytime you see that they want black people to come in, understand most likely it's some kind of third world energy, then understand the black dollar. Just like with Red Lobster, that spell work, making slop food. Because you know black people, that's all we eat is slop food, right? So just bring your black asses to Red Lobster as not Janet, but Beyonce told you. You know, that's how that's how they get you. They market, make certain advertisements and whatever, music, energies. Now that's black people. Not only do you have hot sauce, when you get fucked good, you go to Red Lobster. So that's what they hoping. You know, these nigga bitches, these jigaboos, third world's talking like this. They'll get down and they'll get down and take their man to Red Lobster and call it a day. Okay? So anyway, this is Weird Renegade Witches Blog. Hit us up when you want some real motherfucking work done.